Good afternoon to one and all. Myself, Dr. Gomati, University IQAC Coordinator of Dr.M.G.R Educational Research Institute. Very happy to be the host for this today's session. Today, we are going to host a seminar on teacher as a facilitator. Today, we have a great speaker, Dr. D. Pamela, a professor, Department of Biomedical Engineering, Karunya University. Ma'am, currently working as an associate professor in the Department of Biomedical Engineering in Karunya University for more than 2 decades. She is also a passionate researcher in the field of assistive devices. She has received an Outstanding Engineering Award, very good from Professional Association in the International Conference for Award Winners on Engineering, Science and Medicine. She has received several national and international agencies for product development in healthcare industry. She has also published more than 50 papers in reputed journals and presented her findings in more than 30 international conferences. She has also developed more than 10 healthcare products and she holds a startup also. She holds an Indian patent for a product development for treating muscle spasms and few more patents also published and yet to be granted. She is a pioneer lecturer and she has delivered 100 guest lectures, workshops, and seminars in healthcare domain. She has also guided 30 PG scholars and 6 PhD scholars. As a passionate researcher, she is also driven by a strong sense of purpose to make a meaningful impact on human health. And her lifetime goal is to bridge the gap between the scientific knowledge and clinical applications by translating her findings into practical solutions that can improve patient care. So I think ma'am will be the right choice to deliver a lecture on teacher as a facilitator. So without no further delay, I would like to invite Dr. D. Pamela to take over the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, fine. So, good afternoon, everyone. We'll straightly move into the session. I thank the staff, management staff, and my friend Dalia, who's working there, who has introduced me to this university and who has given me this opportunity. I thank each and everyone, and also I extend my thanks to all those who are present here with a thirst to learn something today. So hope I'll not disappoint you. Let's move into the session. Okay, so our today's session is about effective teaching, and our today's talk is oriented more about teacher as a facilitator. So it's actually an upgradation from a teaching role to a facilitator role. So upgradation is always painful. So there is a quote which goes like this: upgrade was a hard one to make. So if ever the butterfly would have thought it was painful to upgrade itself from a caterpillar to a butterfly, we would have missed seeing all those beautiful flies. Okay, so as I told you, upgrading is a painful and a time-consuming process, but then outcome is usually very beautiful. It is challenging, it is rewarding, and the outcome makes us happy and it gives so much of satisfaction. So today we'll just learn how we'll upgrade ourselves from the role of a teacher to a facilitator. Okay, so to grab all your attentions, I would like to just post few questions. Maybe you can give your answers in the live chat. Okay, can you guess what it is? It is just to refresh you. Okay, can you give your answers? What is this? You're there? Any answers? Can you guess what it is? No? You don't want to give the answer, or what is actually? Any guesses from your side? What is this? Okay. So it is actually an apple pie. Okay. So, okay, it's an apple pie. Okay, you can just, it's just a refresher. And anyone, you can guess what it is? The next slide. You can guess what it is. Any guesses from your side? You can post your answers in the chat box. No guesses? Okay. It is a bottomless pit. Okay. So it is a bottomless pit. Okay. Okay. Now we'll move to the topic. It is, how do you define the role of a teacher? So as we all work in, most of us, maybe 90 percentage of us who are seated here, work in private institutions, and our role, which we started as a teacher, has now grown into multifacets. Okay, so you have to do the role of a teacher in the place where you work. You have to do the role of a mentor. You have to do the role of a researcher. You have to do take up responsibilities related to accreditation in the universities or the institutions where you work. So there are multiple roles that a teacher has to take when compared to the earlier days. Okay, so a lot is expected from a teacher as of now. Okay, so earlier, when you think of a teacher, it is like the person who have to deliver an instruction, deliver few instructions, and collect after a period of time, maybe after 2 months or 3 months, just collect back how much he has learned. Okay, so teaching evaluation completes the work of a teacher. So it's like when you think of a whole process of teaching, you think of a teacher, you think of a board, you think of a chalk, red pen, a stick or a cane. It completes the whole process. Okay, so that was earlier, where information and knowledge were found in limited places like libraries, and access to those places were also limited. But now information is everywhere. It is revolving around us round the clock, and it is very easily accessible by everyone. So now, slowly, our role has to change from that of a teacher to a facilitator. We just have to make them learn, or we just have to show them how to learn, and what not to. So that is how our role has to take a paradigm shift from a teacher to a facilitator. So I'll just give you an activity you can do on your own. I just wanted to take a piece of paper, and I'm good in solving logical questions, or I'm good at programming. I'm good at solving differential equations. Whatever you are good at, you can define that, right? Everyone will have one such talent or one such unique ability. Can you just take a piece of paper and just note down what you're good at? Okay, one thing. Maybe I'll give a time of 2 minutes. You can note down what you're really good at. Please give a thumbs up at least that you're doing it. Okay, so you would have identified one such thing which you're good at. Okay, and next question what comes to you is, you just have to write what actually made you master that, or how did you master that, what gave you the skills. Like, you would have identified one specific skill in you, and you just have to write below that, what does that actually help you master that, how did you master that. Can you give some of your answers in the chat? How did you master that? Can you give your answers? How did you master that? Okay, so you all might have different answers. Okay, you may say that your experience made you a master in that, your practice made you a master in that. Okay, your hard work made you a master in that. But very rarely we'll get the answer. The lecture classes gave you or made you a master in that. Okay, so then what is the need for giving repeated lectures on repeated topics? So is it high time for us? It's high time for us to think, how do we make a change in this and become an effective teacher and reach out to the people, even to the least interested in the class. Okay, so okay, I think these interactive tools we cannot use since we are doing in StreamYard. Okay, so we'll just start with the conventional classroom. Okay, so this is a conventional classroom where informations are being shared. Okay, so this classroom picture, when you think of it, you think of a place where there is transfer of information that is happening. Okay, so you have a teacher or a facilitator who will deliver the information, and you will have the listeners, or you mean the students, who will take the information from you. So the transfer of information happens in the classroom. So in earlier days, it was like, how do you transfer this? How the information can be transferred? So the focus was more on the information that is being transferred. Like, what will a teacher do? Maybe he or she will sit for hours and hours together and prepare the content which he has to deliver in the class. So earlier days, the teacher's focus was on the content what she was going to deliver. But now in this era, it is about how do you deliver it. Okay, it is not only about the information or the content what you're going to deliver, but again, how you're going to deliver matters a lot than it was in the previous years. That is, what do you indirectly mean? Catching the attention of this generation students, or grabbing their interest, is very difficult compared to the earlier years. So when you just give lectures, what happens basically? Your lecturing will make them or the listener a captive to the information what you give. They'll stop thinking. They'll just take whatever you give and translate it from your mouth to a piece of paper. You say it as notes. Okay, so rather than taking it into their brain, they stop thinking and basically convert all the information that you give into words which are printed in notes. Okay, so this has to be changed. Actually, when you speak, the students should start thinking. This will bring in a great revolution in the teaching learning process. So that is why we always talk about interactive learning, pure learning, and all these things. Okay, so teaching, what happens when you deliver something is the class. Teaching is over in the class. Okay, then understanding and applying is, or assimilating the things what you've taught in the class, usually happens outside the classroom. So this is your traditional teaching methods. One is you transfer the information inside the class. Okay, that is the role of a teacher. Second thing is, the listener or the student has to assimilate the information and understand it and start applying in his life. This actually happens outside the class. So this is the original or the traditional teaching method which has been happening for years or for eras. Okay, now suppose think of a twist in this. That is, the transfer of information happens outside the class and the assimilation of information happens inside the class. This is what we call it as flipped classroom. Hope you all have heard about flipped classroom. So flipped classroom is nothing but the information or the lecture what you deliver inside the class in the exteriors is actually done outside the class. And now, once the student enters the class, he starts assimilating the information, or he starts understanding it, applying it, and analyzing it. Okay, so that is the flipped classroom model. So now, let us take this as one method of effective teaching. Let us try to follow this effective teaching by a flipped classroom model. So flipped classroom model, the flipped classroom approach is like this. You will have a pre-class, you will have in-class, and you will have post-class. So pre-class, what do you do? You identify and read the concepts before you enter the class. Okay, so that is what you call it as pre-class. And in classes, once you come to the class, you will be questioned based on the concepts which you have learned earlier. So you will try to understand, apply, and analyze the concepts what you have learned earlier outside the classroom. And the post class is your assessment and evaluation based on the concepts which you've learned. Okay, so this flipped classroom basically has three things. One is pre-class, in-class, and post-class. Pre-class is where you read the concepts before entering into the class. In-class is where you understand, apply, and analyze based on the questions that are being asked to you or based on the case studies that are presented to you. And then you go for the post-class where you are assessed and evaluated based on the concepts you have learned. Okay, so this is your flipped classroom model. Like you can listen or you can read the concept before you come to the class. That is the first step. Okay, you can ask the listener. That is, suppose you're going to take a topic on architecture of microprocessor or something like that, or we'll talk about addressing modes in a microprocessor, something like that. You give the detailed notes. When you give the notes, make sure that you don't give some pages of 10 or 20. You can give them some 5 pages of notes so that they can read it before they come to the class. And once they come to the class, you can question them made based on the contents what you've given them already. So once you question them, they can think and they can relate it to the content what they've learned already, and maybe they'll try to assimilate and answer your questions. Okay, and now you can poll them with your answers. Okay, everyone can give their answers, and then you can go for a discussion. Okay, so like you can have a discussion with everyone and let a person discuss with another person with the opposite answer, and then you can repoll. You can ask them to give their answers again based on the discussions. They may change their answer, and then you can summarize it. So this model will make the class interesting, and will get you can it's very easy for you to get the attention of every students. Let me explain this with an example. Okay, suppose you are going to I've taken a basic example of thermal expansion. If it is from specific domain, maybe it would be difficult for all of us to understand. So I've taken from basic physics so that every one of us will be able to understand it. Okay, so I've taken the basic concept of thermal expansion. So you all know that atoms try to expand or occupy more space when it is heated. Okay, so this is a group of atoms in a cold atmosphere, and this is a group of atoms when it is heated. Okay, so now when it is heated, these atoms try to expand, they occupy more space. This is one concept. Okay, so if you're going to handle this particular subject, okay, you can give in a flipped classroom model, you can give them contents related to this earlier, maybe a 5-page content which is related to thermal expansion, the coefficient of expansion, and everything, and maybe they learn and come back to their classes. Okay, next day in the class you can ask questions in different ways. Okay, that is where you're going to assess what they have understood. Okay, your question can be as simple as like this. I can ask them, the atoms occupy more space when they are hot, they are cold, or you can ask none of the above. You can add n number of options, and you can ask a very simple question, as simple as like this. Like just ask them. So in this type of assessment, there is no need for a person to understand or assimilate the concept. It is just necessary for him to read it. Okay, maybe once he had read through the concept, he can answer this question. Okay, suppose you try to assess him in a better way where he can think more. Maybe your question can be like this. Okay, consider a rectangular metal plate with a circular hole in it, and when the plate is uniformly heated, what happens to the diameter of the hole? Does it increase? Does it stays the same, or it decreases? Hope you understand the question. Consider a rectangular metal plate. Imagine a circular hole in it, and you uniformly heat the plate. Okay, now what happens to the diameter of the hole that is there in the plate? Okay, so now people start thinking about it. There will be different answers from your class. So they've already read what is thermal expansion, all the details about thermal expansion before coming to the class. Now, after coming to the class, you're posing such question to them. Okay, now everybody starts thinking. Okay, few of them may have an answer saying that it increases. Few may say that it stays the same. Few may have an opinion that it decreases. Now, what happens? You can collect their answers. You call it as polling. Okay, there are so many online tools. Using that, you can collect their answers. Okay. Now, once you collect their answers, now what you do is you don't discuss the answer right now. Okay, you can collect all their answers, and now you can make them discuss with each other. For example, if Jack says that, I'm taking for example, okay, Jack says that the diameter of the hole increases. Let Jack discuss with Rose, who says that the diameter says the same. Okay. Now let them both discuss with each other. Now, it is easy for Jack to convince Rose, saying that the diameter of the hole increases, rather than a faculty or a teacher or an instructor to convince Rose, because like it is when you are into a concept for years together, you don't understand the pain of grasping the subject. For example, maybe all those who are here will have an experience of 1 year or 5 year or 10 years, whatever it is. Say for example, the first time when you started handling a subject, like you would have taught electronics. Let us assume that you would have taught electronics. The first time when you started learning electronics, your explanation would have been very elaborate in the class. Your explanation would have reached even the weakest person in the class. The reason is you would have struggled a lot to understand the concept. So you understand the pain of the student, and when you deliver it, you take so much of time to explain the same concept. But then after years, maybe after I say some 7 years or 10 years, you will explain the concept very simply, very easily. Okay, you may not understand the pain of a student who's very new to that concept, because you are into the same topic for years, you're learning it repeatedly, you're practicing it, you've seen so many examples out of it, so you're very familiar with the topic, so that you teach them simply and easily, where it reaches only few percentage of the people in the class. But then now, if own classmate is able to explain the concept to his friend, he will understand how much difficult it is for his friend to understand a new concept. So that is the beauty of giving debates and discussion between friends. You call this as peer learning. Okay. Now what you do is you put people into groups and let them discuss with each other, whether it increases or stays the same or decreases. And now what you do is ask them to repoll. Okay. Ask them to repoll, so that maybe if Jack would have influenced Rose, and Rose also would have changed her opinion that the diameter of the hole increases, she may repoll it to increase. Okay. Or the other way, Jack would have been influenced by Rose's answer. It can happen either way. Okay. So now somebody else has changed their opinion. So you can ask them to repoll and their answers may change. Okay. Now, as a teacher, you can give the answer. Okay. So that the people may understand the real answer, and they will also be convinced of how they were understanding the concepts with the influence or with the help of their friends. Okay. So here the answer is obviously, you know, that it increases. Like it's very simple, right? Because thermal expansion happens as a whole, and your diameter of the hole also increases. Okay. So this is one method which you call it as flipped classroom method. Okay. Where you initially give the contents to the learner, okay, or the students. So they have their contents first. Before coming to the class, they learn the contents. They come back to the class. You give a question to them so that they think about it. They discuss with their friends and they come with the answer, and you discuss the answer in the class. Okay, so that now they understand it better. Okay, so because the earlier method, or the traditional method of teaching, where you convey the information in the class, is actually obsolete now, because the same information that is being told by you, is available in different forms in different platforms. Okay. தமிழ்ல சொன்னா, நான் சொல்றதை விட அழகா சொல்ற வீடியோஸ் நிறைய இருக்கு. நான் என்னைய விட அழகானவங்க சொல்ற வீடியோஸும் நிறைய இருக்கு. So there are n number of ways where people can get the same information. So there is a huge expectation from your side when you deliver an information. So this flipped classroom method can bring in a change in the students' mindset, so that they may be motivated, or they may be enthused to learn. So they may read and come, and when you give them an interesting question, they may be able to think about it and answer it. So actually, when you can really quantify that the concept, whatever you're taught, has reached the person is, if he can, you are teaching some context, or you're teaching some concept to him. Okay. And you are asking him to apply it in one context. Okay. And if he can apply the same concept in some other context, then you have successfully delivered the content to him. So that is how you measure. But nowadays, in our system of education, our assessment patterns are very simple. You ask the same question, even we don't change the numbers. That is how our assessment pattern goes like this. But then with that, you cannot really evaluate whether the conceptual understanding has happened with the learner or not. Okay, so it is always important to set at least a few questions in your question paper, which will really help you understand about the quality of the listener or the quality of the student who is learning under you. So if you're setting a question paper for 100 marks, okay, even in schools they have this pattern now, higher order thinking questions. Similarly, let your question paper have at least or 10 to 20 percentage of the questions, let it be of higher order thinking, where only the person who has really understood the concept will be able to answer these questions. Okay, so Albert Einstein has told that education is what remains after one has forgotten what he has learned in the classroom. So what he has learned in the classroom, he would have written in the test, he would have scored marks, but that is not all what education is about. Education is what is remaining after that. Okay, what he has forgotten by writing in the answer sheet is not at all education. Okay, so what is happening nowadays, we learn something, we teach them. Okay, he takes it from us, and in the form of an assessment we collect it back from him. Okay, and what do we expect? How far whatever I've told him, how far it has reached him, we assess. Okay, but education is not that. It is how do you assimilate the information that has been told to you, how do you understand it, how do you apply it in your life. That is what education is all about. Okay, so now I just told you one method, that is how to make your classroom or your teaching effective. For example, we all handle subjects, and if it is in your engineering colleges, we have almost 45 hours for a subject. Like weekly, we have 3 hours. Okay, so you cannot simply jump into the new methodology which is being told to you. I cannot simply go and take a full subject with a flipped classroom. That's not possible. Let us all resolve to decide to have at least one classroom in a class in a week. For example, if you have 3 class in a week, let us have one class at least as a flipped classroom, or we'll forget it. Let us take it like this: in a month you will have 12 classes. 2 classes, let us have it in flipped classroom model, and 10 we'll continue it in the traditional method. Let us start like that. Let us move step by step. Let us make a decision to make at least 2 classes in a month in a flipped classroom model, so that you can get the involvement of the students. Even the least in the class would be involving more. Okay, so let us make a decision, okay, to move slowly towards the flipped classroom. You cannot have everything in flipped classroom. All concepts cannot be taught in flipped classroom. So when you prepare a lesson plan at the beginning of a semester, let's have the practice of deciding which all lecture topics would be better if I deliver it in a flipped classroom. So let's take that decision first. And remaining 10 classes, okay, let us go with the traditional model. Traditional model is delivering the lecture in the class using a PPT. Usually we go for PPTs now. If it is an analytical subject, we use the boards. Okay, so let us go with that, remaining 10 classes. So now we'll have small tips that will help us in making our remaining 10 classes effective. So out of the 12 classes in a month, I've told you 2 classes, let us shift to flipped classroom model. So what are the things you will have in a flipped classroom model? You will have a pre-class, you will have a in-class education, and you will have out of class. Okay, so post-class or the assessment. These 3 together, it forms your flipped classroom model. Now let us see a few things which will help us in conducting the traditional classrooms for an effective teaching in the conventional classroom model. Okay, so I have some icebreakers. I don't know how many of you are interested in participating. I don't see any answers in the chat. Any guesses of what it is? You can give your answers in the chat. Okay. Okay, I'm not getting any answers. So it is basically under eye dark circles. Hope you understand. Okay. It is under eye. Okay, I've got one answer at least. Thank you so much for the answers. Two eyes with hat, matchsticks. No, it is under eye dark circles. Okay. Okay, shall we move to the next one? Any idea on what is this? You can make your guesses. Any idea on what is this? Any answers? Your answers can be wrong. That is not an issue. But any answers? It's neon light. Okay. It is neon light. Okay. So now, what changes are we expected to make in a classroom? I said 2 classrooms. We'll move to flipped classroom model. The remaining 10 classes, if you have to continue with your traditional classroom model, but then it's not easy like you handle the earlier generations. Okay, so this is the age and generation in which we live. Okay, so it like if you see this generation graph, the people whom we are teaching come under this gen z. Okay, but people who are teaching this gen z are people of millennial age group or people of generation x. Okay, so it is like gen x and millennials teaching gen z. Okay, there's a major difference between all these two gaps. Okay, one is this gen x and millennials are digital migrants. Like, we lived in a non-digital era and we moved to a digital era. We were introduced in between about this digital gadgets and all these digital things. Okay, but then gen z are digital natives. They are born in a digital era. They simply wake up every morning with a digital alarm and they are into whole digital stuff. Hope you understand the difference. So it is like digital migrants, that is we who belong to Gen X and millennials. We are trying to educate the Gen X, okay, who are the digital, who are the simply called the digital natives, okay. So that's a huge gap between these both generations. Like, okay, these Gen Z people are very fast. They want everything to happen very fast. Simple example is they don't even have the patience to watch a YouTube video. They are interested more in watching shorts. You can see them, right? You are the kids who grow in your house, who belong to Gen Z. They simply scroll minute by minute, second by second, they scroll the shorts, right? They don't have the patience to even sometimes see the shorts. Okay, even the shorts they forward it or they skip it. Okay, so that is the speed in which you see these digital natives operate. Okay, and their attention span is very less. Okay, you call your kid and you start talking to them or you advise them, they cannot even listen to you for more than 5 minutes. Okay, they get distracted very easily. And I don't say it is their fault. They are born in such an era where 24 bar 7 around the clock the distraction is there in their hands in the form of a mobile phone. உங்க கையிலேயே இருக்கு. Okay, it is there right in the palm. Okay, so it is really challenging for them to live. Okay, I myself, I think many times how difficult my life would have been if I was in this era. So just scolding them and condemning them will not help in any way, because that the challenges they face is very huge compared to what we live in, the era in which we lived in. Okay, it is one comparison where you will watch the cricket matches, ODI test matches with all white uniforms with the players. Okay, we were comfortable with that. We didn't have much complaints or we didn't have any regrets on that. We enjoyed watching it from morning to night. Okay, we were patient enough to sit in the same place and see what the score was. But then think of Gen Z. I've never seen any of them watching a 50 over cricket match. They are all interested in T20 or 20 over cricket match They wanted to see a ground which is colorful with all color jerseys by the players. In addition to that, they see cheer girls everywhere around them. So the total scenario is different. Hope you understand the difference between a Gen X and Gen Z. Okay. The total scenario in which they live is different. We try to, the people who lived in Gen X, we try to impart whatever we got in Gen X to Gen Z, which is not possible at all, which will not be received by Gen Z easily. Okay. So now it is we who have to change, okay, which is we who have to upgrade and come to their level and make them understand what is, make them or understand or assimilate the concepts what are being taught in the class. Okay. So for that, I'll give you a very small tip. Like you can take this small distribution of the 50 minutes class. So most of your classes will have 50 minutes. Hope so. Okay. So this 15 minutes class, let us divide it into different segments. Second 5 minutes, let us recalling the topics that were taught in the previous class. Okay. Second 5 minutes is for evocation. What is evocation? Evocation is introducing the topic to the class. Okay. So next 5 minutes, you will recall what was taught in the previous class. Okay. So next 5 minutes, first 5 minutes, you will recall what was taught in the previous class. Second 5 minutes, let us go for Hello?
Can you hear us?
Hello, ma'am?
Can you hear me, ma'am? Ma'am, can you hear me? Pamela, ma'am?
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Can you people hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm
Can you hear
audible,
me,
right?
ma'am?
I'll continue.
Yes. Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
Hello, Pamela, can you share your presentation? Hey, you're audible.
Audible. One second.
Ma'am, you're audible. Can you hear me?
Really sorry for the inconvenience. I had some issue.
Pamela, ma'am?
Let me stop sharing and I think I'll present it. Is the PPT visible now? Can I get an answer? Is the PPT visible now? Can you see the PPT presentation? Okay. Are you able to view the presentation? presentation visible?
Pamela, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Pamela, ma'am? Pamela?
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's audible. Yeah, you
Now
can
can you
continue.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
Am I audible now? Yeah.
Yes.
And can you see the presentation also?
Presentation, yes, we can see. Yes, you can continue.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Sorry. Very sorry for the inconvenience. Okay. So we'll start from where we left. Okay. So I'll give you a smart distribution of this 50 minutes. So I said first 5 minutes you will have time to recall. Okay. And the next 5 minutes you'll go for evocation. Evocation is introducing the topic to the listeners. Okay. So how do you introduce the topic to the listeners? You can take another 5 minutes. And you can divide your whole module into two submodules. You can take some 12 minutes to cover your first topic, subtopic, and you can have a small assessment. So I had made so many assessment tools also, but since it is StreamYard, I'm not able to demonstrate it. So you can use some assessment tools, online tools, okay, so that you can give few questions and ask them to answer, and based on that you can make an assessment. Then for the subtopic 2 you can spend another 12 minutes. You can use another 3 minutes to assess the second subtopic, and the last 5 minutes you can have for summary. Okay, so this is for 45 minutes actually, and you will have another 5 minutes as buffer to take the attendance and everything. Okay, so now this is how I thought maybe it will help us in delivering the content more effectively. So you can have 5 minutes of recall, 5 minutes of evocation, first 12 minutes for handling one topic, 3 minutes for assessing that topic, another 12 minutes for handling the next topic, 3 minutes for assessing the topic, and the last 5 minutes for giving the summary. Okay, so this is how normally we recall, right? All of us have this habit. I think most of the teachers or lecturers or whatever role we play in the field of teaching, we have this habit of recall. Okay, once you step into the class for a day, we ask for what we had taught them in the previous class. Okay, but this recall, we do it in a different way. Okay, normally every one of us tend to pick one person, and it is our nature to pick out the person who usually don't listen the class, right? It is our we know for sure that the person whom I pick up will not give the answer. அப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட் தான் we target and we call him. Okay, so first student, he or she may not be able to answer. We go for the second, third, and finally we ask a person who can give the answer. This is our traditional method. Or sometimes we go for volunteers. We may ask who is interested in giving a recap of the previous day's class. There may be some enthusiastic students who may volunteer and they can give a recap. But then, rather than all these methods, one method which I found effective during my experiences, you can have this recap or recall or summary of the previous day's class as a planned one. For example, after completing my today's class, I can choose 3 people, okay? And I can tell them, next class, you 3 will do the summary of today's class. I can give them the responsibility so that these 3 people, or the size of the group can be decided by you. These 3 or 4 people can take time. They can prepare a short summary. And they can present it in their own way. Presenting the summary, they can do role plays, they can make some kind of discussion, or they can give a quiz to them. Any method they can adopt. You have to give the liberty to them to choose their mode of delivery. And you can choose these 3 people in a random way. Again, let them not be your targets, like those who don't listen to the class and the mother don't pick up. You just pick those 3 students randomly. You can call out people who are born in the month of June, or you can call out people who wear specs. And the mother, you can randomly pick up people, form groups, and you give them the responsibility of delivering the recall or the recap in the next day's class. This will be very effective because these group of people of 3 or 4 will learn that particular topic thoroughly. So you get to at least capture or 10% of the class strength to learn that particular topic. And next day, when they deliver it in a different mode, that easily reaches their peer group. Okay, so that is one different method, or one interesting method where you can go for recall. The second one is evocation. Evocation, I can relate it, or I can equate it to the trailer of a movie. So basically, any movie you will be thrilled to see only based on its trailer. So the trailer speaks volumes about the movie. It is a matter of 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but then it is the one which creates the interest in you to watch the movie. So similar to that is your evocation. Okay, how do you introduce the topic to your class? Okay, there are different methods to introduce topic to the class. One is I can go by the history. Like recently, when I had to teach the subject robots in healthcare, I just started searching the history of robots. It really surprised me. Robots are exactly not the autonomous robots what we are talking now, but in the year 1520, there were robots. They called them as attendants, helpers, kind of. So in 1520, there was a king who arranged for a buffet, and he had his servants, or the people who served the buffet, were metal attendants. Okay, so it is really surprising for us sometimes. So this may create an enthusiasm in our students. So when you talk about the history of the topic what you're going to deliver, that will be a good method of evocating the topic. Next would be taking them into the future and making them understand the purpose of learning the particular topic. Okay, so you can give them a very futuristic application and tell them how interesting the topic is going to be, so that they may listen. Okay, the third one is you can introduce them to the topic by giving a recent news on that topic. I'll give you some examples. Okay, so you can introduce the topic to them by giving a news that is related to that particular topic. Fourth, you can try analogies, or you can try stories, okay, related to that topic. Fifth is you can take movie clippings. Okay, all your science fiction movies will have the basic concepts of physics, engineering being applied in various parts of the movies. So you can take a part of your movie, and then you can put that clipping and then introduce the topic to them. So there are different ways in which you can introduce the topic. So evocation is very important. This is where you create an interest in the student to listen to next 25 minutes or 30 minutes of your lecture. So if you can give a very good evocation to the topic, then you are you've crossed your success rate of delivering your lecture at 70%. The remaining 30 is on how you deliver the content. Okay, so evocation plays a very major role. Okay, so we have seen recall, we have seen evocation. I'll just give you an example for evocation. So earlier, from the beginning, we are discussing about the topic of thermal expansion. So I'm giving I'm giving an example with the same topic. Okay, now suppose I'm going to take a lecture class or deliver a lecture on thermal expansion. I can take this as a evocation. Okay, so there is a news in 2019 Nagpur Times of India paper about Nagpur. Buckling of track disrupts railway traffic. Okay, buckling is what happens when there is thermal expansion of rail tracks. Okay, these steel rail tracks, when they expand because of heat, buckling happens. Okay, so I can now take this news, I can present this news, how railway traffics are disrupted because of buckling, and then take them back to the concept of thermal expansion. So this is one example I'm just giving you. Okay, so you can evocate the topic in any way. Next is content delivery. Content delivery, all of us do it, and all of us are doing it for years. And you can use this PPTs for delivering the content. That is normal, that is absolutely fine. But then one small thing we can make a note in this content delivery is, make sure that you don't have much written contents in your PPT. Let it be more pictorial. Okay, your listener or your student should be 100% convinced that without your content or without your lecture, this PPT will have no meaning. Okay, so this PPT will have only guidelines, only hints, and he can get the whole content only if he listens to your class. Otherwise, if you put a PPT with all the contents in it, he'll set his mind thinking that, okay, at the end of the lecture class, anyway, she or the staff or the particular faculty is going to upload the content in Google Classroom. So I can read it later, the day before the exam or on the day of the exam, and I can manage to pass the exams. So let our presentations not be of that kind. Our presentations can have pictures, but the real content should be in our lectures which we deliver. Okay, so that is one way in which you can catch their attention. Let them rely on our content delivery rather than the presentations which we make. Okay, then as I told you, after delivering the lecture for 10 to 12 minutes, you can go for self-assessment. Okay, this assessment, why do I call it a self-assessment? The reason is, okay, the reason I call it a self-assessment is only when it is self-assessment, they'll understand where they are. For example, now if I one particular person and ask a question, it will tell him where he is. Okay, where he is in Grada, he'll understand. But then this will not benefit all the people in the class to assess themselves. So if I go for simple assessment tools like puzzles or all these are assessment tools. Okay, Kahoot is one quiz assessment tool. Slido is one poll assessment tool. Padlet is an assessment tool. EduPulse, Parley, all these are simple assessment tools. It is very easy for you to create a quiz there. Okay, and you can conduct it. So this will help each and every one of them in the class to assess themselves. They'll have at the end of the class what they understood in Grade, they can assess very easily. Okay, so this assessment tools will help you to assess the whole class in 3 minutes. It's not you as only assess, they themselves they assess. Okay, so end of the assessment, they get to know what is their position. Okay, where they are in Grade, they understand. And the next one is summary. Summary, it's better that the faculty give the summary, because you are introducing the concept to them that day. So it takes time for them to understand, it takes time for them to assimilate and give a better picture to their peer group. Okay, so once you go for a traditional classroom method, the summary, it would be better if you deliver the summary. Okay, if the faculty deliver the summary, or you can ask everybody to summarize on their own using some mind maps techniques or word clouds or posters or process diagrams or flow diagrams, so that each individual will be able to represent the whole day's class in few words or few pictures or something like that. Okay, so that is another way in which you can get the summary. Okay, so hope you are all clear with what two methods we discussed. One is with you can have a flipped classroom model, but that is not possible for all the 45 lectures what you deliver. You may have it for, you can start with 5 classes out of 45, or it's your choice. Okay, and remaining 40 we can go with the traditional methods. But how do you make it effective? We will have a small distribution of time for different aspects. Okay, as I told you, you can have a recall. This recall, it's very important. You involve students in recall. Okay, it is not. Let it be a type of prepared recall. Let it not be randomized. Okay, you prepare few people for every day's recall, so they learn the subject thoroughly and they also teach their peers with that. Okay, then you can have another 5 minutes for evocation or introducing the topic. Then you will go to the subtopic 1. You can have the assessment for that. You can go for the subtopic 2. You can have assessment for that, and then you will have the summary. Okay, the summary you can have it in different methods. So these are some of the things which can help us in making our teaching effective. Okay, now again back to few icebreakers. My slideshow, if I put slideshow, there is some problem in loading. That's why I'm presenting the PPT like this. Any answers? Any guesses for this? Any guess what is this? Any guess about what it is? No? It is pair of dice. Okay. Next. Any idea of what is this? Any guesses? Any guesses? Okay, so it is 3 degrees below zero. Okay, so the answer is 3 degrees. You can see here 3 degrees below zero. Okay, so now how did I come up with all these things, or all these small improvisations in the traditional methods what we take? You know, I'd gone through a literature. Okay, so this literature is found in education in the February 2022 edition. It is based on the expectations of Gen Z from a teacher. Okay, so what do these Gen Z people expect from a teacher? So it is based on a questionnaire collected from 2000 samples. Okay, I was just thinking, nobody bothered to collect such expectations from our generation. But this generation is lucky where we get feedbacks from them. We get what do they expect from us. All these we just get periodically from them. Okay. So these are some of their expectations. Okay. One is they expect a positive and welcoming learning environment. Okay, they expect a positive and welcoming learning environment. Okay, so gone are the days where when we entered a class, we had a teacher who stands in the dais with a cane or a stick in her or his hand, near the blackboards with the chalk, staring at us. Okay, so those were the days where we were dependent on the teacher alone for the knowledge resources. Okay, so she or he was dictative, authoritative, and they were the only resources where we could rely upon. So now the scenario is totally different. The resources, the knowledge resources is everywhere around them. Okay, so you are just facilitating that environment. You are mentoring them to work on that environment. So in that case, you cannot you cannot have the role of a policing. Okay, you have to be a facilitator. You have to be friendly. You have to be mentoring. You have to be calm. Okay, so this is what is their first expectation. They expect a positive and welcoming learning environment. Second one is they expect authenticity in the information what you produce. Okay, this authenticity every student or every individual expect from you. For example, if you are giving your information, or if you are presenting your information, they see how valid the data what you present is. For example, this authenticity or this reliability on the information what you present should reach the students in first few classes of yours. First 5 days of classes, they should 100% they should be convinced that whatever information you give is authenticated. Okay, so that is very important. In the first few classes, students should have that trust on you, or should be convinced that the information what you present to them is authenticated. Okay, so that is the second expectation what they give. The third expectation is engaging and interactive teaching methods. So we have seen few of them, and let us try to implement it. Okay, the fourth one is mentorship. I'll come to it little later. The fifth one is emphasis on critical thinking and problem solving. Okay, this emphasis on critical thinking and problem solving cannot be applied to all the subjects, but if it is an engineering stream, you can apply it. If it is a programming subject, then you can give them programs, ask them to develop programs for different applications. If it is a project, if it is a hardware subject, you can ask them to do projects. In our university, we have a project-based learning. That is for all the subjects, conceptual subjects. The third internal is substituted by a project what they make, present, and they deliver it as a product. Okay, so that is how you can involve them in critical thinking and problem solving. And the last one is fair assessment. Fair assessment is is one expectation out of all generations. Okay, it is not the expectation of only Gen Z. It is the expectation of all generations. Wherever they are being assessed, everybody wants a fair assessment. Okay, so this is a normal expectation. This fair assessment is actually you can ensure that you are assessing them fairly by giving this self assessment every day. Okay, so then and there, as I told you, when you complete a 50 minutes of class, after every 20 minutes you have a small assessment. So this assessment will help them to understand where they are. So on a everyday basis, they themselves they are assessing them. So whenever you assess, okay, they will be able to relate with their self-assessment, and it will be more convincing for them. So the self-assessment tools, which we do it periodically, is very helpful to convince them about your assessment pattern. Okay, and now let us talk something about mentorship. Okay, so this generation Z people, or Gen Z, okay, the students of this generation, they actually they pose themselves of people who as people who don't require mentorship, as people who are self-sufficient. They are self-resilient people. They are independent kind of people. They pose themselves like that, but to the reality, they always need a mentor, but they are not able to accept it. But they are brought up like that, because in this era where every family has one or two kids, they are pampered and they are guided in every single step they take. Okay, we don't let them to handle things individually. We don't let them to take things on their own. For example, I don't think none of our kids would walk to a shop to buy something for us, or go to a bank to get things done, or go to a wedding and attend represent us. So none of these situations they handle individually. So they actually need a mentor, or they actually need a facilitator or a supporter in every part of their life, but they don't usually accept it. So this Gen Z students, mentorship is very important throughout their stay in your university institution, or throughout you being their facilitator. You have to mentor them in every walk of their life. Okay, so this mentoring, this creating a positive and welcoming environment doesn't mean that I have to compromise with my principles. Like every one of us will have our identity. Maybe I will say, நான் எவ்வளோ ஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் தெரியுமா, என்னை பார்த்தாலே ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்லாம் பயப்படுவாங்க. We all have our own way of describing us. Maybe then you will ask a question. Gen Z students, should I hold hands with them and walk? It is not like that. You need not compromise with your values, or you need not compromise with your principles. But then how do you deliver? How do you make them understand what your principle is? We should be little more diplomatic than we had been in the earlier years. Okay, so even when you had taught before 20 years, when you handle a lab, you would have expected your student to write a very neat observation and very neat record and come prepared for the laboratory. The same expectation you can have on a Gen Z kid also. But then, why do you expect out of them? Why do you expect it out of them? And how do you convey this expectation to him? Has to be little more diplomatic than what we had done with the earlier generations. It's not, my theory is not to say that you have to compromise all this. Let him come unprepared. Let him come anyway. It is not like that. Let us make sure that our intention of enforcing such rules in him is to correct him. Okay, so if our intentions are clear, he will also understand us in a better way. He'll not take us or consider us as a rough person or a rude person or a rigor person, but rather he'll understand whatever you do. If our intentions are clear, then he'll understand that whatever you do is to build him up or is to mentor him. Okay, I'll just share a small incident and I'll close. I had a mentee, and he's going to be in his third year. Okay, so he was, from the day he joined my classes, he was very disturbed. He's not a person who disturbs others or disturbs me, but by himself he is a disturbed person. He cannot sit and listen to classes. He cannot do any work properly. He was a totally distracted student, and you will find him very difficult to mold him. Okay, so first when I called him and I started talking to him, first what I understood was he was not interested in doing that course. Okay, he was a NEET aspirant and he didn't get through NEET, but then he had studied pure science, so he didn't have options to take many engineering disciplines. So he was forced into a discipline where maths is not a mandatory eligibility for engineering. Okay, so he had been forced into his interest is to do mechanical engineering. Unfortunately, he cannot do that, but he has not, because he has not taken maths. So now he is into the stream which he is not interested. Okay, so I talked to him. I made him realize that this is the best what your parents can give you. Out of what you have learned and out of what you're eligible, the parents have given you the best, so you can study. I started motivating him, and he was okay for 2 weeks. Then again, he started complaining about things, saying that he cannot learn, he can't understand maths, so he cannot learn most of the subjects. So he said he wanted to quit, and his parents came and they said he is asking to take him back. Okay, so I said no, he can do. And I understood that he has lost his self-esteem. Like so total lack of confidence was there in him when he saw people doing maths well, and when he saw people good performing well in the class. He had a low self-esteem. Okay, so I thought, let me use him for what he is good at. Okay, he actually has a very good language skill. He's very good in English. Okay, so I had 2 other students in the class who are very poor in English, who are struggling to even write sentences in English, because they were basically from Tamil medium. So writing their exams, they study well, but then they find very difficult to present. So I told this guy, you help these 2 students every day. Every day you take a newspaper, spend 40 to 50 minutes with them. You read a English newspaper, you read a Tamil newspaper, and you ask them to translate the news into English, and you correct it for them. So this fellow, he did it for 1 month. His life was also interesting, and he found the other 2 people were also being benefited. Again, he wanted, again, this fellow was losing interest in everything. He said, I can't stay outside with my parents. So his parents were very good parents. His father took a break from his job. He rented a room here and took this fellow, and he stayed outside. This fellow couldn't stay with his father happily for Hardly for 3 weeks he was there with his father. He came back to the class saying that I'll stay in hostel. Now, after getting to know more about him, what I understood was he was not interested to take any responsibility. He wanted to shun away from everything, giving excuses of simple things. I can't learn. I'm not feeling good. I'm not healthy. Hostel is not comfortable. But the major problem was he didn't want to put in hard work. He didn't want to put effort. But he wanted to escape from everything and sit somewhere comfortably. So what happened was I just called him and I scolded him left and right. I said, hereafter, only choice you're left is you have to sit here, you have to study every day, you have to pass your exams. Okay. So I scolded him properly and I sent him away. And then this fellow was okay, he was studying, and again he created a problem when his exams were near. So that time his mom called and told me, and she said, ma'am, you please call him and scold him. I said, he might not be comfortable with that. He'll feel bad if I call him and scold every time. But you know what his mom said? His mom said, no, he said, he called me and told me, I'll say the exact things in Tamil. Ma'am திட்டும் போது எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் புரியுதமா, ஏன்னா ma'am வந்து just ma'am wanted me to become good. Her intentions are good. Her intentions are to correct me. So when she scolds, I'm able to understand that what is her heart. So that is what I always felt. For being a mentor or being a teacher, our intentions matters a lot. When you go to a class with the intention that whatever I teach today or whatever content I deliver today should reach all 60, then obviously I can perform well. Obviously I can become an effective teacher. If I do a mentorship, let me always have in my mind that my mentee should be benefited out of his stay. Our intentions matters a lot. At a lighter note, I'll just tell you. Let us take an example of this webinar. If my intention or as a presenter, okay, if my intention as a presenter or a deliverer, content deliverer, if my intention was to reach everyone, then the way I prepare or the way I deliver, everything will have some kind of dedication in that. I'll do it sincerely. Or if it is for namesake, as a deliverer, I don't think I would have reached people, or I could have delivered the content properly. Now let us take from your side as a listener. Okay, what is your intention? If your intention was to really learn something out of this, you would have really attended this and learned all the contents out of it. But if your intention was different, okay, then you will try to fake, right? You will try to fake. We'll just put it on, we'll go. So everywhere, this is just at a lighter note, I'm giving you an example. Everywhere it is the same. Our intention matters a lot. Behind the effectiveness or any outcome, okay, is going to be good if our intentions are good. Okay, so there is a very good saying which goes like this: my intentions are always pure, as I don't have time to fake. Okay, if my intentions are always pure, there is no need for us to fake anywhere. We can be the best, we can do the best, and we can be successful. Okay, so thank you everyone for listening patiently. Thank you. I thank the management and the IQAC team for giving me this opportunity. Thank you everyone for listening patiently. And I'm really sorry for the hiccups we had in between. Thank you.
Pamela, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you so much, Pamela, ma'am, for the wonderful session, and you have carried out the session in a very nice way, and you gave a lot of examples, and you made the audience to stay steady by giving a lot of small work, and it was very interesting, like the connection, word connection, and all. It was very interesting, and your presentation was good. And even I felt like I should be a student in such a your class and learn a lot of things from you. And I would like to be my mentor. It was so awesome. Your entire session was very nice, and thank you so much for being with us, ma'am. On behalf of IPC, I would like to thank our Honorable President for giving us this chance to conduct this wonderful session. And my sincere thanks to our Director, IQAC, Dr. Malini Pandey. And my thanks goes to our Deputy Director, Dr. Shubhasree. And I would like to thank our University IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Kanya, and my dear participants. And already the attendance link is posted in the thing. Kindly fill it up, and thank you so much.
Dr.M.G.R Educational and Research Institute, University, Madurai, Chennai.